Well, hello there and welcome to yet another recording of an episode of Marketing Scoop, the show brought to you by Semrush. This particular episode is going to be on Quora and advertising on Quora, why perhaps you should be doing it if you're not doing it at the moment. We're going to be getting going with the proper podcast recording very soon. That's right, we're recording on YouTube here for an audio podcast. You can see us recording live and perhaps answering a few extra questions that aren't actually on the podcast itself. So if you're not aware of the podcast and where you can actually subscribe to it, just check out semrush.com/podcast and you'll find links there to all your favorite podcatcher bits of software, iTunes, Android, whatever happens to be your preferred podcatcher. So subscribe, please, in audio form as well, if you're not subscribed already. But why are we not getting going quite yet? Because we're just going to greet everyone as they come in. We're going to say hello to Erica and a few other people saying, starting to chat away there. So if you're watching us live, if you're just starting to join us, there's a few people starting to join us. Where in the world are you from? I see that Paul is joining us from Warsaw in Poland. Always great to get different people from different places. We've got William Rock joining us again. Hi, William. Great to have you on again. He's in Kansas. So tell us a little bit about where in the world you happen to be watching us. And also tell us if you are actually advertising on Quora, because that's what we're going to be talking about today. Are you focusing in on paid advertising? Are you a general digital marketer or just wanting to learn more about Quora advertising? We've got Dave McDonald from Vancouver, British Columbia. Dave, great to have you there as well. So nice to see some people starting to join us there as well. We've got Michelle Chopin, also from Vancouver, BC in Canada. Quite a few Canadians as part of the mix today.
Gotta love Canada. We were discussing maple syrup and maple butter earlier, and every Canadian knows maple butter. It's not got any fat from any animal in it. It's just pure maple syrup that's been churned up into delicious, lovely joy.
Splendido. And that's the lovely Judith that you just heard. We'll be introducing Judith properly very soon. We've got two wonderful guests joining us as well. We've got Brendan joining us from Chicago. I am using Quora ads as well. Great. We've got some active users of Quora ads live online here as well. William wanting to learn more about Quora ads. We've even got our guests joining in and sharing where they're from. That's pretty cool there as well. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to start the proper podcast recording. So that was just the informal intro. I'm going to click the intro music and we'll get going here. Marketing Scoop Season 2, Episode 20. Why advertise on Quora? Broadcasting live in the Semrush YouTube channel, this is Marketing Scoop. I'm David Bain.
And I'm Judith Lewis, and welcome to the Semrush show that reveals the latest digital trends and technologies that impact your marketing strategy.
Together with industry experts, we delve into SEO, advertising, and content marketing to uncover the ultimate recipe for digital marketing success. Let's go straight into meeting today's guests. So first up, a man who's quick on his feet and excels at digital strategy and storytelling. He's responsible for raising the visibility of Quora among brands and marketers. Welcome to The Scoop, JD Prater.
Hey, thanks for having me, David and Judith.
Well, next up, a man who's lucky enough to say that his career is his hobby. He was an impressive number 8 in PPC Heroes list of the top 25 PPC influencers for 2018. And he's PPC director at Clix Marketing. Welcome, Joe Martinez.
Thank you for having me again. Thank you.
So I've got the first question, and it's a deeply intellectual one, I feel. And it's for you, Joe. And it's serious. Joe, how in the world did you manage to beat JD in the list of top PPC influencers? The world wants to know.
I had my mom vote like 40 times.
Yeah, so it's bots, really.
I don't know. I wish I had a good answer for you, but I don't.
No bot voting. It was all just like sparkling personality.
Yeah, I try to schmooze as much as possible at conferences, and I don't know, I focus a lot of time on just writing and speaking as much as possible, and that's pretty much the only effort I put into it.
And getting hooked up with hoodies, I see.
Yes, it helps to have friends in high places.
Well, that was, of course, the silly fun question of the day. I wouldn't want to have been faced with that one. So, Judith, how did you beat X? Voting bots? But in all seriousness, I think one of the things that a lot of our listeners are going to want to know, because there are so many networks that you can advertise on nowadays, and it can be really confusing as far as the landscape goes. What is how is Quora different from other social media networks?
JD, do you want to kick that one off, or should I?
Yeah, go for it. I'd like to hear from an advertiser, and then I'll jump in as the brand evangelist to make sure that I stir the pot correctly.
No, it's a different platform where you can see, if you're on Quora organically, you could just see the community factor of it. It's part social media, but it's part search because people are looking for specific answers to their problem. It's with advertising now, it's part display where we can get in front of them. It kind of molds a lot of the different types of channels and different funnels all into one platform. And just the user interaction is a lot different than, I mean, no offense to Facebook or anything, but there's just a lot of crap on Facebook, and you can just get lost where a lot of people are leaving Facebook because they don't want to hear a lot of this stuff, where you don't really get that within Quora. And even just some of the targeting features, just based on how the platform is and what the purpose of the platform is for, it gives us different targeting options that are a lot more specific than some of the other channels.
Interesting. So what kind of targeting options are you looking at that are going to be more specific? Because I think one of the failings that we've got on other marketing platforms is that it's very difficult to actually target the kind of people that you want. So you've mentioned that it's different, but how is it different?
I mean, the biggest feature alone, just of Quora being mainly a Q&A channel, is you could target direct questions. So if I'm trying to get in front of people who need a HR software, and I'm a SaaS company, and someone's typing in, which is the best HR software to use? Well, I can get directly in front of that user. That's qualified immediately right there. And that's just one example. We can go by certain topics and interests if you want to do more high level type targeting, but you can really get down to the nitty gritty of, yes, there's remarketing. Yes, there's list match with your email list. But I mean, the direct question targeting of finding these users, you can't get more exact than some of these questions. And the intent, you can find out the user intent in these questions if it's more discovery, if they're in research mode, if they're, where can I buy? Where they're straight up bottom of the funnel right there, I can get in front of them with a more harder CTA type ad and change that message up depending on what this user is asking.
Just before we get to JD on giving us an overview of Quora itself and maybe whether or not certain audiences are on Quora, Joe, it'd be great to just get your perspective on the cost of Quora advertising compared with other social network advertising that people can do, maybe compared with Facebook or LinkedIn.
It's definitely on the most affordable spectrum for sure. The very first client I used it for was in the music industry, and they said, okay, we just want to spend X amount of dollars per month. And we did super hyper targeted first with question targeting and remarketing. We weren't spending the budget. So we started opening up to broader topics. We're flat out, this is looking for a specific music product, but we were just flat out targeting eventually just the topic of music, and they didn't have a large budget. CPAs that we have, they were more on the subscription side. So they had a CPA for their subscription sign up of $25 an hour, or $25 CPA on Google. We were getting that same subscription sign up for $1 on Quora. And comparing a CPC on Google, which we were seeing within the couple dollar range, we were paying definitely under $1 on Quora to get a far cheaper CPA.
And when you say CPA, were you paying based on CPA, or were you paying based on click and then just calculated CPA?
we were doing CPC bidding initially, just because we just wanted to drive traffic. It was definitely more of a awareness factor and driving traffic goal for our campaigns.
Great stuff. Okay, it'll be good to hear from JD now. JD, can any business just about advertise in Quora and target questions, or is it more effective for certain types of businesses?
That's a great question, one that we get fairly often. And as Joe pointed out, yeah, I mean, like SaaS B2B does really well, but also like education and consumer are also our other two like most popular categories. So consumer could be anyone with like that B2C aspect of it. That said, go on and do some research. Go check it out. Start searching on Quora and see what topics come up. Once you see topics, we're going to give you how many followers there are of certain particular topics. So as an example, we just came out with this really cool infographic, and it was based off 2018 data where we kind of compiled all of the topics into one. And then as an example, like shopping, right. So all out there, we have over like 12 million people following shopping. There's over 84 million people following entertainment. There's 73 million people following health and 57 million following travel related topics. So if those are interesting to you, go check it out. It's not just necessarily a B2B play.
So it sounds like the platform is really performing well against other platforms, other social media platforms where we might be engaging with either a B2C or a B2C audience quite well. But not a lot of people, from billions to millions on Quora. Do you find that when you're, Joe, when you were targeting on Quora and you were saying you were getting all the cost per acquisition levels and they were so low, we've had a number of people asking about costs and things like that, but was it a lasting relationship that you got off of Quora as a platform? So did you find that they stuck around and that they engaged with the brand and that they became loyal consumers of the brand's information and product? Or was it something where they sort of were very light touch and they maybe signed up and subscribed, but then, disappeared?
Yeah, there's a combination of both depending on what audience you're targeting. We found out that our current audience was already heavily using the platform on an organic factor. So that was an idea of, okay, now let's see if we can get a hold of these users if they haven't purchased anything yet. And then from the flip side, it was an opportunity for us to test growth as well. So, I mean, we just due to the audience that we can go after and how specific we can get, either with certain topics or the question targeting that I've mentioned a few times already, we can find heavily qualified users that do come back to the brand over and over again. So it's not only helping us capture what we haven't captured yet, but we also can use this opportunity to grow. And then utilizing that information to build lookalikes, which we can also do within the Quora platform as well.
Are there retargeting opportunities as well, Joe, or is this just an opportunity for acquiring new customers?
Yeah. I think for anyone coming new to the platform, this is where you need to start, because you can add the Quora Pixel to your website and start collecting audiences without ever giving Quora your credit card information. So if someone's having that question of, is my audience on Quora? If you don't want to look up the topics like JD said to do, find out for yourself. When I had a client that was different doing music festivals type things, and they said, I don't know if our client base would be on Quora. We added the pixel because it was free. We could collect that information and be like, yeah, you're getting 100,000 site visitors on Quora every 30 days. Your audience is on Quora. Let's run some ads now.
That's incredible. One of the things I do when I teach a course on advanced SEO is I actually say, go to Quora and do your research, because I think it's an underutilized platform by business looking to engage with consumers. And oftentimes people find really surprising questions being asked about their business that they never even knew was happening. So, your business is being talked about there. You really should get on it. And then advertising directly to those people seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah. And
yeah,
it's amazing how many people hesitate that too still.
Well, even with the questions are demand driven. You're not guessing what people are talking about or asking about your brand, your industry, your competitors. They're actually telling you. This is a perfect opportunity to either A, organically jump in and answer that question and provide a better and higher value answer, or two, run ads on that question, on those topics, on those competitors, so that way you're in front of that audience.
So how targeted can an advertiser get with their advertising? Is it possible to actually select an audience based upon their own age or employment status or different terms like that, or simply are you targeting based upon the types of questions that they're interacting on?
Yeah, really good question. So we at this time we don't offer age or gender targeting. It's just something we don't ask as a platform. And when you go to fill out your information, we can infer maybe, but we don't offer that with the ability as other networks. Again, good and bad when you think about digital privacy. The other piece of that is we really focus on the intent of what someone is reading. So when someone is there, they're reading a question, they're consuming content, that is their way that you can target as an advertiser. So as Joe mentioned, you can get laser focused on a question. Don't expect that to necessarily scale because that is a question. And then you can go all the way up into where you could target the entire platform, which is broad targeting. But somewhere in between there is the topic and interest based that most advertisers are more comfortable with, because then you can actually target a topic, because that is how Quora is organized. We're organized into topics, and that's something to understand too when you're advertising.
Great stuff. Sorry, Judith.
JD, I was going to ask whether or not you found, you've just mentioned about you can target the whole platform or you can be laser focused, but are there any specific verticals that perform best on Quora, would you say?
So outside of like specific verticals, I mean, like I mentioned, consumer, education, and SaaS tend to be our top performing advertisers. That said, you can go in and check it out. I mean, because we literally have almost every topic that you could think of. There are thousands and thousands of topics. And so go in to understand if your audience is there. More than likely, they are.
So loads of questions coming in to our YouTube chat. Matt Crampton's saying, do advertisers in Quora get better results by promoting blog posts or pushing traffic directly to landing pages instead? Joe, do you have some thoughts on that one?
Test it out. I mean, depending on what the goal of your campaign is, and I've used it for even from e-commerce clients that we said it can work for e-commerce clients. You're not going to buy a t-shirt on Quora. You can't do that. However, we can build the awareness of this new product, so we're just using it to drive traffic from that awareness factor. I do have B2B SaaS companies using Quora right now, and it's working. We're getting, the return in the CPA is fantastic for those. Depending on where that user is in the funnel, if it is remarketing or if they're in research mode, depending on what the question is, we are going for that conversion action on the landing page and driving traffic. And then if it's trying to get in front of a new audience, like targeting our competitors' topics, from there, we are just looking for more awareness, check out a blog, just having them understand who our brand is and get familiar with our brand before we're pushing that hard, sign up now CTA to someone who doesn't even know who our brand is yet. So it depends on your intent of who you're targeting, and then also what your campaign goals are.
Bringing people in and getting them on the site and getting them familiar. We've had an interesting question, and I think it's for either of you, but Michelle has asked, would you recommend using the Quora advertising in conjunction with organic activity like posting questions, answers, searching, etc., or as a replacement for it? So should you be engaging socially on the platform, or should you just be advertising to people?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and jump in on this one. So my answer is do all of it. So Quora has this evergreen flywheel that most platforms do not have. So when you write an answer, that's evergreen content that's going to last forever. That's also indexed really well for Google. So your answer could show up in the first page Google search results. That's one. But it also builds thought leadership and credibility. And that's what's really important. So that's the awareness side of things is, how do you position yourself, your brand as a thought leader, as a credible expert on a platform that values that? And that's really what's huge. And that's how you can gain followers, gain upvotes, but more importantly, you're going to gain those views. And those views are really important because those views are also views on your content. It may not be on your website, but it's still your engagement. It's your views. And that's really important to factor into on the organic side. And we provide all of that in an organic analytics solution. So you go to your profile, go down to stats, and we tell you exactly which questions over time, which answers over time. You can go and look and understand that. The key to really gaming that is to provide high value answers and do it consistently. And then that signals to the platform that you are an expert, that you are getting engagement, and we actually give you more distribution in the feed and the Quora digest as you are becoming an expert. The second part of that is we actually find that advertisers that participate organically are better advertisers. They actually understand the platform. They understand how to find questions. They understand how to find topics. They understand how to find pieces of information in Quora. And so I'm a big fan of doing an actual Quora strategy that is organic, that is a social aspect where you're following people, engaging with people, and then also advertising. If you don't have time, advertising is the quick hit.
JD, we've also got, sorry, where the question, lots of questions coming in. So I'm just trying to get to the question I had in mind here. Erica Galindo says, can you target location radius? So I assume that she's talking about, can you target location of your target customers?
Yeah, so we don't offer radius targeting, but you can do zip code, city, state, and country.
Superb. Okay. Joe, can you talk a little bit more about the ad formats that you've been using and ad formats that have been working most effectively for you?
Yeah, there is an option to have an app download. If you have an app one, I personally have not used that one yet. I just haven't had a client where I've had to use it. So if you want to promote your app, you can do it on Quora too. The main ad format I've been using has been the image ads. It's pretty much you're taking your standard text ad within Quora, but you can use the same image dimension that is your typical Facebook, the 1200 by 628, and add that to it. So, I mean, if you look at Quora, which is mostly a text-based page, to have that image on there, I've just seen CTRs, and unless I can't get an image from the client or I can't pull a stock one, I'm using the image ads every single time, pretty much. And then also just the way the text ad is set up, we're so used to how Google is with, probably putting your exact keyword as a headline one. It's kind of like, almost boring marketing where we can actually do some fun stuff and engage with users and be fun and be creative with our headlines. We can't use the all capitalized case lining for our headlines where every single word is capitalized. We can make it more like a sentence. We need a punctuation for our headline. So you'll see a lot of advertisements kind of trying to mimic their headline as a question. So it blends in more. It feels more natural to the user. Are you struggling with this? Or that type of question where you can just capture their attention. Like I am. And then you can have a really nice long description to guide the user and then choose the right CTA for you. So it allows us to be, I think, better marketers when we can have a long format, open type format of the text ad and then layer in an image to really capture that user's attention.
It sounds almost too good to be true, but you've mentioned image and text and things like that, and that can get a little bit confusing. I know that it can feel a little overwhelming to people when they get started on just Google, let alone something like Quora where we're targeting it slightly differently. How would a business, if they were wanting to get involved in Quora advertising, how would they actually start out? How would they get started with putting together their ads and getting them onto Quora?
Yeah, I can take this one. So we actually have a program for new advertisers, and it's called Quora Quick Start. And we actually provide you help for 45 days where we help you build out your campaigns. We give you optimization calls and performance calls for your first 45 days to really help you be successful, because we know that there is a switching cost. This doesn't look like your Facebook. It doesn't look like Google. And we know that you have to learn a new platform. So to help you be successful, to help me make you easier and faster to get up and running, and you get to actually meet with experts on the Quora Ads team, to really help you understand the platform. So you can Google Quora Quick Start. It's the best way to kind of get started. The caveat there is that we ask for a commitment of $1,000 of ad spend to really test the platform. Some of you guys are like $1,000, like that's a drop in the bucket. You can't even test anything for less than 10,000, and then other people are like 1,000. I can't even imagine spending that much. So I know that it's depending where you are as a small business or maybe the enterprise level, that could be a big commitment. But we would just ask that, hey, like give it a chance and let's like experiment and work with each other.
Would the $1,000 be over a per month basis, or would the business be able to spend that $1,000 over like 2 months or 3 months?
Like 45 to 60 days,
Okay.
more than anything else. So it's like once your campaigns actually get started, so that's basically like $10 a day.
It seems pretty reasonable, $10 a day. You can go through more than that on Google Ads in just trying to target something like, I love chocolate. So I always use chocolate as my example. And I have a friend in the States who was trying to advertise on $5 a day. And we were really struggling to just get any exposure at all. So it sounds like what we should have been doing is looking at taking his budget and putting it into something like Quora Ads, where, as an example, chocolate has a lot of content around it. And he has a very good product.
Yeah, I think it's also important to remember too, $10 a day, roughly, let's just say you're doing $1 per click, that'd be only 10 clicks. Like, can you learn a lot on 10 clicks? If it was $2, you'd only be working off 5. So I think part of that is just, we want to make sure you have enough information to actually make optimizations, have enough data to actually know and inform what to do next. So that's the reason why.
We've probably got enough time for just one more question from our audience. Quite a few questions coming in. So Dave McDonald saying, if some of your clients' most frequently asked questions don't exist on Quora, is it bad form to ask and answer questions? Now, obviously, we're moving on to organic marketing versus normal advertising here, but it'd be good just to get your feel for best practice for participating on Quora in general. Maybe get both of your thoughts on that. Shall we go with Joe first of all?
I mean, yeah, we're going to see, for the most part, who's asking and answering the questions. So, and I would look particularly at trying to find out related audiences or related audience topics of where your audience likes to go initially. And you can kind of discover that initially with some of the interest-based marketing and retargeting as well, is trying to see where your audience goes and what questions they typically like first. I mean, we have the option to promote our answers with certain organic ones, but we're not necessarily asking and answering those at the same time. I've never been in that situation where I've had to, and that's something I just typically wouldn't recommend right off the bat. You don't want to seem like you're kind of stuffing and just pushing your own agenda too, because that once you lose that natural feel of the worth of Quora, I think that might actually hurt you instead of help you.
It certainly doesn't sound like good practice. Just before you get to your opinion on that one, JD, another question just to wrap up on the same answer, if that's okay. Is Quora Quick Start available in the UK, or is it just US at the moment?
Yeah, good question. So yes, it is available in the UK. So basically all English-speaking countries is where it's available to. That's the best way to kind of think of it. And Northern Europe and Eastern Europe also included in there.
Wonderful. And your thoughts on kind of organic participation on Quora in general, doing things like answering your own questions? I gather, I would assume that you'd advise against that.
No, I'm a huge fan of answering your own questions.
Okay.
People don't realize that you can do that. So yes, if the question isn't there, ask it. Like, this is the purpose of Quora. Like, Quora's mission is to share and grow the world's knowledge. And if that question isn't there, we want it there. And then answer it, because we also want that answer there, because that is knowledge that's going to last and be evergreen. So don't be afraid to do that. But I will add this caveat. Ask the question. We actually give you the ability to ask experts for their answer. Fantastic ABM strategy for all those out there. So based off of that, ask the question, and then you can pick people that Quora is going to, let's say, are experts based off the topics that are related to that question. Ask them to answer it, because it's an amazing way to get their opinion. So it's great for audience research, consumer research, but you're also engaging with people that may be your target audience.
Wonderful.
And of course, One point, of course, to emphasize for people in the EU and in the UK, don't pretend that you're not associated with the business when asking or answering questions on Quora. It is against the law.
Yeah.
I know I'm a spammer, but yeah, I've got to be legit here, white hat on. Always disclose your commercial relationships. Please don't break the law.
Great piece of advice. But that just about takes us to the end of episode 20 of season 2. Just time for an actionable tip from each of our guests related to, or not necessarily related to, what we've been discussing so far. So let's see what they come up with. Let's go with JD first. JD, what is your actionable tip?
I think my first actionable tip would be go check it out. Sign up for Quora. Answer a question. I know, take 5 minutes to answer something that you're an expert in. And then 2, go out and just, set up an ads account and play around with those ads account, because you can set up your pixel, you can upload your email list, look at your match rate. And so that would be my first actionable tips. Answer a question and then upload that email list and see what your match rate is on Quora.
Lovely. Well, you can find JD over at jdprater.com, as well as Quora.com, of course, as well.
And next up, it's Joe. So Joe, it's your turn. What is your actionable tip?
I would get away from the mentality of how a lot of people write their text ads on Google. This is a platform where we can be more creative, have a lot more fun, test out a different image, maybe use some more humor in your creative to actually see how your users engage. Are they more business focused, or are they there more for fun and discovery? So just test out your creative, embrace it, embrace a different mindset of how we can interact with our users and actually be better marketers. And the answer you might find in the data you find out which ads actually perform better, it might surprise you.
That's always a good tip, because so many things in life do surprise us in pleasant ways. You can find Joe over at clixmarketing.com. It is CLIX marketing.com. I've been Judith Lewis, your co-host, and apparently, according to David, you can find me over at spamalot.ca. I was not involved in the play. I'm just a spammer. I'm over at decabit.com, where I do lots of legitimate non-spammy things.
But if you were involved in the play, what character would you play?
Oh, I would be the, the moistened bint lobbing scimitars at people as a system of government.
Okay. And I've been David Bain, your other co-host, your Easter egg provider in the script and everything else. You can find me over at digitalmarketingready.com as well. We will be recording the next episode, season 2, episode 21 of The Scoop, in a week's time on the SEMrush YouTube channel. That's on Wednesday, the 6th of March, for a show that will focus on where you should start with an SEO audit.
Joining us live will be A.J. Gerkich from gerkich.com. Apparently GHERGICH.com, because I have a weird Canadian accent.
Twitter.com/SEO might be easier maybe.
That's probably a lot easier. And also Nick Ranger from webfirm.com. And I'll spell that too, just to be fair. WEBFIRM.com. Make sure you sign up to watch live at semrush.com/webinars. And of course, you can catch all of the previous episodes over at semrush.com/podcast.
But until next time, be fantabulous and do one thing that scares you. Adios.